It started with a flu, and by all accounts of classic illness was severe. I had a super high fever, 103. It shot up at one point to 104, really, really high for about 4 days, and I could not move. For 5 days, I battled in fever dreams, sweating through the sheets, waiting for this darn thing to pass. And it wouldn't be another 10 days until I could finally make it to the doctor. Ciao everyone, Ariyele here, and today in the kitchen, we're keeping it real making maple glazed root vegetables with orange and thyme. Yum! And another installment of the Cooking with Chronic Illness series, where I not only show you how to make a nutrient-dense, delicious dinner or lunch or dish that won't debit your energy bank account down to zero, I also am going to share with you more of my own chronic illness story. Fear not, all of the explicit instructions are always available for you on the website. And if you want the recipe delivered directly to your inbox, sign up for my newsletter through my website linked in the description box below. Onwards we go. We're gonna get to work and I'm gonna keep telling you my story. It took me nearly 2 weeks before I made it to the doctor. And when I did, he basically said to me, you caught some kind of gnarly bacterial viral combination infection, gave me a course of antibiotics and sent me on my way, said, you should be good to go now. Well, if his diagnosis was correct, that all that happened was that I caught some gnarly bacterial viral infection, then that's something I'm still dealing with 8 years later. For weeks after the infection seemingly passed, I struggled against the very weight of my bones to get out of bed in the morning, never thinking for a second, as young as I was, and as normal as a flu is to catch, that whatever had happened was gonna change my life. Another thing that I noticed that was incredibly obvious, much more so than the fatigue I was dealing with, was that I was catching colds and infections as frequently as it rains in Seattle or Portland. Like a lot, like all the time a lot. And that was really different for me. The fatigue was too, but let's be honest, I'm a hot pocket of energy. It was pretty difficult for me to really tell. I just thought that I was going to bed too late or that me and the man dude were out partying too hard, if we were, not that we were, but it's like never occurred to me, like I said, that anything as long-term and severe as, what was happening had actually happened. I finally went to the doctor, the same doctor, and I said, listen, that infection that I caught back in March, I'm still not feeling 100%. In fact, I'm catching all of these colds all the time in a way that's really new for me. And I'd like you to test me for HIV or any other immune dysfunction disorder that you can. Because what's happening is something to do with my immune system. My immune system is just impaired. And that was all I knew. HIV was the only real test I knew of okay, this is a total breakdown of the immune system. So when all the tests that he sent me for, including the HIV and every other thing that he looked for, which of course I didn't really know what it was, I just trusted him, he was the doctor, he's supposed to know everything, right? Well, in the subsequent years I would soon discover wrong. No offense to any doctors out there. If there are any doctors out there, I'll tell you right now, listen to your patients, even if the blood test doesn't say there's anything wrong. If they're telling you there's something wrong and you can't find it, believe them. So anyway, the test results come back, everything's negative, and he says, I think that was a nasty one. It was, you had a high fever, it was bad, your body's still fighting it off, and it's just taking a little bit longer to clear. For years, I lived with my illness undiagnosed. I moved to California with the man dude, started a career as a social worker, tried to establish basically a new life for myself far from home and without any contacts or people that I knew, all while struggling under the weight of a chronic illness with severe, disabling, crippling fatigue and frequent infections. I'm gonna add a little hot ghee to my very high cast iron skillet. You can watch the video on how to make ghee. I store mine in this great jar. Yeah, so for years living with the illness, the things that I was actually able to accomplish considering how sick I truly was are pretty remarkable and definitely a story for a different time. But eventually my body gave out. It was like, you think you're gonna keep going? You're not. Essentially, by the time I left work for a 1-month medical leave, I was absolutely finished. I was taking horse pill-sized ibuprofens every 3 hours and supercharging my days with caffeine. I'm gonna pause for one moment in the story here while we add our carrots, as you saw me slice, into this extremely smoking hot ghee in my cast iron skillet. It's gonna sizzle a little. We're gonna let those get nice and sizzled down. We want a little bit of caramelization. There's plenty more stories to tell you about the period of complete and total disability that followed my diagnosis. And man, was it bad. I was down and out, and for a long time. And I'm sure the horse pill-sized ibuprofen and caffeine-fueled days played a role, absolutely. That and being a social worker in California's social services and working with some of the most intense youth that there are to deal with, which I loved. Of the many things I did to pursue my healing journey, and I did many wacky things, people. Wacky and not so wacky. When I found my acupuncturist, he turned me on to this guy called Weston A. Price and said, look up this book, Nourishing Traditions. I've talked about it a bunch on the show. And slowly make these lifestyle changes, essentially, which I did do. And over time, I have to say, while diet is not the end-all be-all for me in my daily life and it didn't fix me, it is absolutely one of the strongest pillars upon which my daily functioning rests. So that's where my diet really comes in and where this recipe ties, because this is a recipe. I'm gonna add the orange juice to the carrots. From Jenny McGruther's cookbook, The Nourished Kitchen. She's one of the first bloggers that I found when I had to change my diet and move into this Weston A. Price world. Love her work. And I fell in love when her cookbook came out with the beauty and the simplicity of this dish. So I'm gonna keep this set where it is and I'm gonna let this liquid evaporate. We're gonna peel some thyme leaves. Obviously, I've only told you guys a tiny Lego-sized piece of my story, right? I mean, there are so many moving parts of a story about a young person that gets sick with chronic illness. Many people have experienced it and can understand and relate. There's the getting of the sick, then there's the finding out what it is, all of the young pieces like, you know, it used to be me and the man dude out on Friday night and the wig and Desire. If you haven't seen that episode, definitely check it out. And me downing Texas-sized frozen daiquiris one after the other, dancing, having a good time. No, that's not what continued to happen, 23, 24. No, I was in bed with like a flu pack on my head and a thermometer out of my mouth, sipping down water and OJ and watching many depressing episodes of 6 Feet Under. What I do want to end with is you. I want to hear from you about your chronic illness story, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Of course, the deeper conversations always happen in my newsletter where it's private and it's only for my eyes. However, I really would love to build a community of people that support each other, whether they're sick or not, really. If you are sick, share with me, what's your story? How did it happen? When did you figure it out? Were you young? If you're not, do you know anyone? Did you have a friend like me who was like, sorry guys, can't go out again? Were we a total drag and downer? I'm just kidding, don't answer that. But share below. I really want to have a conversation with you. I read all the comments, as you know. Love you guys so much. And love Jenny McGruther for making people like us living Weston A. Price style, living and eating easy and delicious and yummy. Love time. Love time. You know, side note, we got to time these up, but I have another episode that is one of my least watched episodes, and it's one of my absolute favorite, and the man dude. It's In the Woods, keeping it real. What's up, guys? Features thyme heavily. That's what made me think of it. Check it out. It's a good one. It's an oldie but a goodie. Ooh. These are all caramelized down. Winter and fall's highlight right here. And Jenny recommends serving this as a side dish. Totally yum. Or with some fried eggs in the morning and thick slabs of bacon. And it's not the morning, but I'll tell you right now, me and the man dude are macking down on thick slabs of bacon with this and some fried eggs for lunch. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time with another storytelling episode. Be sure to subscribe through my website and my newsletter. Ciao.